Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Future Tech Talk episode 38, I believe. Kind of crazy how we're already at that many episodes. It is a beautiful day down here at the ballpark. I am such a big fan of spring, and I am seriously considering what I'm going to do next winter. I don't know how I could live through another 8 weeks of gray skies. Man, it just takes its toll on me. And if you're wondering why this setup looks like this, well, I was recording my course this week, my Midjourney beginner course, and I needed it to look a little different than all of my other videos. That's what I was thinking. This also happens to be the room where I film the podcast, so unfortunately I can't sit in my comfy couch today. I've got to do the whole standing up gig. And one thing about a course that I had no idea I was going to have to deal with, something I was not prepared for. Right after the first day, I'm talking like 2 hours into recording, I had no idea how sore my throat was going to be from enunciating and giving a lot of energy. And then I had to do this for 5 days straight for like 4 hours a day. I had no idea how much effort that was going to be on my throat. And I had to have some lozenges in the other room, and I had to take breaks, and then after I filmed, I just wouldn't talk again for the rest of the day. It's been a weird week, to say the least. And my throat still feels a little raspy, honestly. And my calves, oh my god, my calves. I'm standing up for, a few hours at a time, and I guess I'm just not used to that. I don't know. It sounds a little silly to complain about. I just was not prepared for quite a few things that came with the idea of filming a course. But you live and you learn, I guess. So what can we talk about today? Why don't we start with this AI drama? Why do we know about any drama with regards to these tech companies? It blows my mind. So this week, during the office hours, the Midjourney CEO told us that the outage they had a few days ago, I think it was last Saturday, was due to some unusual activity coming from the website, not Discord. He says that apparently someone was trying to pull every image and prompt from the user base, and this crashed at least a part of their system, and it brought down the service for about 24 hours. Hey, that's great. That's being very transparent. Thank you for telling us. But then he said that they traced the credit card. They found out that it came from like 2 different credit cards. He didn't really elaborate on that specific detail, but he said they traced the cards. They found a name. They cross-referenced that name with people on LinkedIn. And apparently it is a Stability AI employee, and Stability AI is the team in charge of Stable Diffusion. I don't know if they consider each other rivals, but there's certainly some sort of competition going on, especially from a customer's point of view. So he just openly tells everybody that a rival company DDoSed them. Immediately what came to my mind: why are you telling us? What good could this do? What do you do? Why are you telling us this, man? It is so strange, and I don't know if it's just the new way of doing business. I don't know if it's a new generation and how they see communication. I just cannot picture someone in the 1980s or 90s getting on a conference call and openly sharing drama between them and another company. David, the CEO, went on to say that they're going to indefinitely ban all Stability employees from having a Midjourney account. It's like, whoa, okay, that's a response. And he basically said that they needed to do something to show that what happened to them was not going to be taken lightly. That you can't just shut down our servers for 24 hours. I don't know if revenge is the right word, but it's a feat of strength, so to speak, where you have to showcase that you're not to be trifled with. I think that story would have been amazing. They should have just said, we found out who it was, and that person works at another company. Leave it vague. Let us wonder if it's Google, if it's Apple, if it's OpenAI. Why would you call them out so specific? What good would that do? Why do we know about any drama? And it brings me back to the whole Sam Altman and the firing and then rehiring and all that nonsense over the weekend with people threatening to quit the company, every employee basically signing a letter saying, if you don't bring Sam back, we're not going to show up. Why did we know about any of that? Why do we know about this now? Like, is it me or is it weird? And I was wondering, like, is this sort of public feuding only weird because I'm getting older? Like, how would I have seen this if I was 15 or 20? But now that I'm closer in age, or closer to these guys in age, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, if I was running a company, I'd never talk about this type of stuff in public. But I'm certainly not the type of person to ever run one of these companies, so maybe my opinion doesn't matter at all. Like, what does it matter what I think? This is what they're doing, and I guess I'd love to hear from you. Were you shocked to hear about this? I know I got some comments saying, oh, well, I'm sure this kind of AI espionage happens all the time. Maybe, which makes it even more weird that we know about it at all. And I do want to clarify, I'm not defending Midjourney for absolutely everything they do. Like, I'm not trying to shill, but I saw a lot of people saying, well, Midjourney stole images from the internet, so why are they getting mad at other people trying to steal from them? That's not the argument. What Midjourney was mad about is that this attempted theft, or whatever you want to call it, took down the service. It stopped their paying users from being able to access the bot. And like, that's the only beef that was there. I don't think it really had anything to do with scraping information. It was more like, oh, you tried to take our information and you stopped our paying users from being able to access what they paid for. Like, that's the problem. It was really just about that, I'm pretty sure. And David did say that, what happened probably couldn't have been accidental. Like, the way in which the attack happened was like maybe 2 stages or 3 stages past like ever being an accident. Like, there was some thought involved in how best to go about this little heist. I don't even know what to call it. I'm not on the inside. I don't really know what happened. I'm just trying to apply reference words to how it was described to us. I don't know if I'm doing a very good job of that. So I apologize if I get any of this incorrect. Have you seen this thing that came up recently from these old Star Wars movies where I don't really know what country it happened in, but in order to play commercials, they were literally filming the commercials with the Star Wars aesthetic and just like placing them inside of scenes. So they would make it seem like Luke Skywalker was like taking a drink of Pepsi, something like that, I thought that was really interesting. And I saw one comment saying like, this might be the future of generative AI, that you'll be watching a movie and you won't even know that an advertisement is coming. It will just appear in the movie or in the TV show. It would basically be seamless advertisements. And would that bother you? I think it would probably make you laugh and you'd wonder like, wait, was that in the script? But then aren't product placements seamless advertisements? Except now that maybe you can auction off these generative ads like in real time almost, where you're saying, oh, this show on Netflix is killing it. Look how many views it's getting. Do you want your ad to show up before the big fight? Like, do you want to see your restaurant being not ransacked? Do you want to see the main characters drive by your restaurant? And then maybe you could even do like super targeted generative ads, where if there's like a restaurant chain in your state, you would see that. That could be interesting. You just have to think of ways that this technology is going to make people money. I know that's a little dystopian, but that's where you're going to see this technology flourish first. If you want it to be used, you have to sell the use of it. And you sell the use of it by saying this can translate into profit. So instead of, I don't know, I just think of like the newer Jurassic World movies and all the product placements in there. And I think Batman was driving a Mercedes in the Justice League movie, like little things like that, where maybe you don't have to sell your entire scene to one company. You could sell it to a bunch of different companies and let them target their own audiences. Maybe 2 people in the same city would see 2 different versions of that scene. Would that cause problems? because like what would the final cut be? Like what would be the official version of the movie? I'd maybe just, I don't know. I really don't know about that one. A couple weeks ago, Midjourney brought up the idea of incorporating their service with an existing chatbot. Some people pointed to Twitter. I thought they would be referring to GPT. I could be wrong about that, but there are even other chatbots that you would think, why wouldn't they want to partner with someone like Midjourney so that their service could become even more valuable? I did see a comment pointing out something I hadn't thought of, and it's a little naive, but they said that Midjourney on GPT would be even more restrictive. And that made me think like, oh yeah, that wouldn't be fun to use at all. Right now you can basically prompt for any single thing in Midjourney with regards to intellectual property. I think politicians, it's iffy. I don't really mess around with that much, but you'd have no problem asking for Batman or Superman or whatever. But you can't do that with DALL-E, you can't do that with GPT. So if GPT had access to Midjourney, would you face all of those GPT restrictions first before you even got access to Midjourney? And I remember a long time ago when the idea of APIs was brought up and why they haven't engaged with it. One of the answers was, well, the technology isn't stable, so if we give our tech to someone else and they build a business off of it, and then we change the bot, we're just going to be screwing over people and their livelihood. Like, they didn't want anything to do with that. But the second thing he mentioned, and I think he only talked about this once, was that if Midjourney appeared in other places, if it appeared everywhere, if it was in Photoshop, if it was in other chatbots, he didn't say this at the time, but if Midjourney appeared elsewhere, Midjourney itself might appear less valuable. Because if you had access to it in Photoshop, a portion of people will think that it's just a part of Photoshop. And then if someone said, oh, you got to try Midjourney, they might say, well, why would I use that when I have Photoshop? Not knowing that they were using Midjourney. Now, you might think that's a niche problem, but it's a real problem. Like, that would actually happen. There would be a lot of uninformed people with strong opinions. So if people are able to see Midjourney images through GPT or through other chatbots, they might be unaware where that magic is coming from, and therefore think less of Midjourney itself, even though Midjourney is supplying the magic. If they ever go through with an API and allow the bot to create images on other services, I'd love to ask him about that again. And what would have changed? Like, why were they so protective at a time only to lessen that grip on their service? Is it because they're number one? I don't know. And maybe this is a good time to bring up the idea of power rankings and who has the best AI. It's my opinion, it's my observation that you won't be able to catch the people in the lead. Now, maybe you could argue who's in front, but I think the two clear answers are Midjourney and GPT, OpenAI. I think Sam Altman himself has said, you're not going to catch us. And I've seen people be like, oh, he's just hyping himself up. He just wants the funding all for himself. He's trying to discourage competition. That might be true. But something else that might be true is, what if he's telling the truth? What if you can't catch up? And the more you think about it, I think there is some validity to that thought. And maybe the main argument I could see is, you hear a lot about how the path these companies are currently going on is not the actual path to AGI. You'll hear a lot that there needs to be another breakthrough. We've come a long way, but there's something missing. Like, we're waiting for another big shift in how we see things. If that's true, and I think a lot of people agree that that part is true, then I think that means that the path we're currently on is sort of set, in the sense that you can't catch the person in front of you. Because if you're on this path, they've already went down this path. They know that we need another breakthrough. So if you're trying to do the same thing as other people and they've done it first, you're not gonna pass them. You might go at the same speed, but the gap is too large if you're playing the same game. If they're working 24/7, even if you work 24/7, there is no amount of new progress you can make, because because everyone has decided that this path is sort of not predetermined, but it's been, I don't think solved is the right word either. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I think that if someone were to pass GPT, they would need this new breakthrough that everyone is referring to. And I think the same with Midjourney. If someone were to somehow beat Midjourney, they would need access to this other way of doing it that nobody has come up with yet. And I think another good example of this is when DALL-E 3 was released, and oh my god, it's the Midjourney killer, you gotta try DALL-E. 2 months later, Midjourney comes out with version 6, and now DALL-E looks awful. It's still good. It's still really, it's great. You can create art with words. This is an amazing piece of technology, but it doesn't look like anyone can catch the person in first place. Maybe because they started sooner, maybe because they have better employees. Like, if Midjourney had started later, would they be able to catch DALL-E? I don't know. But let's say DALL-E 4 comes out, and oh my god, it's the Midjourney killer. Well, then Midjourney is going to come out with version 7. You see, it's just like a back and forth, and whoever is at the next release cycle is always going to be in front. But Midjourney started first, so they're sort of ahead on those release cycles. They're like the one step ahead. They picked first, so they'll always have the next pick. Does that make sense? And I think GPT is the same way. GPT-4 came out probably like a year ago, and then all these other chatbots come out. I think Claude is the newest one that has dethroned GPT, but it's only better than GPT-4. OpenAI has had a year to work on improving GPT-4. So let's say they come out with 5. How long would it take another company to make something better than 5? And then when they do, let's say it takes them a year to beat GPT-5, OpenAI will have had all of that time creating the next one. Like, I really don't know if there's a way to catch up. Again, I don't know anything about this technology on an intimate level, but I'm just trying to connect some pieces there where there's a general acknowledgement of needing a different type of thinking, a different breakthrough. So if you're going to play the same game as these other companies, I don't know if you can catch up to them, because the game clearly has like a set of rules that work, and they've just been playing longer than you. They played first, and with a lot of money. It always comes down to money. But it doesn't seem like even money can fast track the knowledge and experience involved in creating these models. These models get better because you train them and you learn what you did wrong, so you train the next one to be better. That's exactly what happened with Midjourney. They trained version 1 and they're like, oh, this kind of sucks, but maybe if we do this, it'll be better, and then you get version 2. And then they're like, well, what if we tweak this? Oh, you get version 3. And then they're like, well, if we do this, maybe we can get version 4. And then they're like, yeah, but photorealism, I don't know, maybe it needs this. And you get version 5. And then they're like, well, if we wanted longer prompts, more details, what would we do? Okay, that's how we get version 6. Like, I feel like you needed to go down all of those steps in order to get to where we are today. I really don't know if you can accelerate that progress, because after all, it is people that are making these models. I don't know. Maybe we could talk about something interesting from a recent Joe Rogan interview with Zack Snyder, the filmmaker. And I never listened to Joe Rogan on Spotify, where he was exclusive for a while, but now that it's back on YouTube, I'm like, hey, sure, let's interact with this. I like watching a video podcast more than I like listening to it. Did they have video on Spotify? I honestly don't know. I don't interact with that service. And the one thing I want to talk about is how Zack Snyder created a movie recently called Rebel Moon. I haven't seen it, but what he explained in terms of the behind-the-scenes deal with Netflix was so interesting. He said, well, first he gives Netflix a script. He's like, this is what I want to make. And they're like, well, can you make it PG-13? And he's like, oh, but, look at what I want to do. This wouldn't work for PG-13. And then he kind of says to them, look, I'll do what you want. I'll be a good soldier. I'll get you your PG-13. But can I also film the rated R stuff and then release that later? Like, can I make both movies at once? And they said, yeah. So I know that Rebel Moon didn't get the best reviews and that it comes out in 2 parts. So when people saw the first part, it's really leading into something that hasn't come out yet. So they thought it was boring and it's just a lot of setup with no payoff. I get that. But isn't that amazing that you could be on set one day and you film the PG stuff, you film what is appropriate for a larger audience. And then you get to say, hey, let's have some fun with this. Let's see some gore. Let's see some, I don't know what to expect, honestly, but I think that's so fascinating. And maybe it could translate well to generative AI in the sense that, hey, do you want a PG version of it? I can also give you the rated R version of it. Like, you would be able to generate more, how do I put this? You would be able to generate more versions of the same story. Tell the story, make a G version for it, make it for kids. Tell that exact same story for teenagers, then tell it for adults. And if Zack Snyder was able to do this with like a real production, why wouldn't this be a sign that someone like Netflix could do this moving forward, where you click on a movie and like, what version of it do you want to watch? Maybe it's not completely customizable off the start. I think we'll get to that one day. But maybe you have like 3 different age ranges. Maybe it is like child friendly. There's no blood, there's no gore, there's a lot of cutaways. We don't linger on anything too long. You know, maybe the dialogue is a little more cliche for children to really just hammer home the point. And then as you expand the age range, you can introduce a lot more subtle interactions, intricate dialogue, action scenes, explosions, energy. And then when you get to the adult version, this could be super real. Like, I don't know if I'm doing a good job of selling that to you, but again, hearing that a prominent director just spoke to another human being and said, I'll do this for you if you also let me do this. Why wouldn't that be the first step to branching paths of the same story? Yeah, maybe branching paths is a good option. Maybe some new Netflix shows might have the idea of choose your own adventure on a much larger scale. Maybe it's not an infinite amount of choices. Maybe it's just a branch that goes from 2 choices and then 6, and it's sort of like a Fibonacci sequence. I don't even know if that's the right numbers to use, but you know, maybe at the end there's 27 different outcomes you could get to based on the choices you made to get there. That would be really tough to film with real people. Really tough to film. Generative AI could make that a possibility. And again, you're just trying to think of ways that Netflix would approve the use of AI. You have to give them something to sell. You have to sell them on what they can sell. And a choose your own adventure is something that's enough people are aware of that. If you used it as a buzzword in your advertising, I think you're going to pique some interest. I don't know how many people are going to go through with it, but if people felt agency in how the main character behaved, or maybe the choices they made, like maybe there's a heist gone wrong and some of your team is evacuating, but one person is left behind. Maybe the camera kind of settles inside of the main character and you can look left and right. Do you want to stay back and help that one person, or do you want to evacuate with your crew? If you evacuate, maybe you then get the choice of how you can go back and save that one person. If you stay, maybe you get the choice of how you're going to get out of there. That could be a lot of fun, especially if the fidelity is real. Like if there was a Luke Skywalker choose your own adventure, you know, think of a random comic book that would have been made, only now you get to make the choices of that book. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Now, why don't we get a little philosophical and a little doomer, because that's maybe my specialty? I don't know. I see a lot of talk about wanting GPT to have the proper values, because that's the main chatbot at the moment. It doesn't matter if it's GPT or Claude or Gemini. It doesn't matter. We want AIs to have our values. We don't want discrimination. We don't want bias. We don't want prejudice. These are great values to have. We don't expect to see those things being reflected back to us from an AI. That is one thing we would like to leave in the human realm. If we're going to create a new species, we would like them to only improve on us and not have any of our bad characteristics. Everyone wants GPT to reflect the values of our society. I think that's great. But our society is pretty messed up. Anecdotally, I don't know how many people are truly happy. I know progress is amazing. I know there's pockets of happiness that are like a billion times stronger than anyone could ever imagine, but there's still a lot of darkness on Earth in human society. A lot of dark patches that we can see on our streets, but then, dark patches that are hidden from our sight. So it makes me wonder why we're so hell-bent on creating an AI in our image when, dude, our society's flawed. Like, maybe that's what made Star Trek so attractive to some people, because it wasn't our society, it looked past it. And I didn't grow up in the 80s or the 50s or 60s or 70s. I have no idea what life was actually like, and I don't know what it was like to see Star Trek, and it was probably mind-blowing to know that someone's imagination had seen past all of our problems. And you had these crews of diverse aliens, ways of thinking, abilities, and it all came together to accomplish these missions. I could see that being really powerful then, especially because it's still powerful now to watch those shows. Like Star Trek: The Next Generation, it's an amazing television show. And I do wonder, like, where is that now? Where's the next version of that? A lot of our media, film, maybe novels are a little different, but a lot of our physical produced media is very cynical. It sort of makes fun of where we are, sort of deconstructed. I think that's the right word to use. It's not admirable. It's basically like, well, you think it would be like this, but no, it would actually be like this. And was that how media used to be until Star Trek came along? I don't know. But I do wonder, like, who's going to create the next piece of art that is going to inspire everyone to be better? Maybe I can talk about this now. I don't know if you've heard of this game called Helldivers. It was a really small game that came out on PlayStation in like 2015. I loved it. It was a top-down view, so you control these little men, and you're being sent to these planets to spread democracy, a little bit of liberty for all, right? Some planets are infested with bugs, there's robots on others, and it's a shooting game, you gotta shoot them, whatever. Fast forward till now, last month, Helldivers 2 comes out. Now it's a third-person shooter. It looks a lot more like other video games, but again, you're being sent to these planets where you are overrun with enemies. You're expected to die, and then you just respawn as a new person. They send another soldier down to the planet. But what I want to talk about is the reaction from the player base and how so many people want to like role play as these characters in this world. And it is really reminiscent of Starship Troopers. I mean, that's where the inspiration for the game comes from. But I'm talking about the whole idea of I'm doing my part. It's a bit of a meme. The Helldiver community really wants to engage with that. And it's blown my mind just how much they want to engage with it, how much people really just want to do their part. And it sort of reminds me of how people used to envision Star Trek and working for Starfleet. They just wanted to be a member of this larger-than-life entity trying to do a good thing. Helldivers is more satirical. It's not serious. Nobody really wants to be a Helldiver. But the idea of role-playing as one and being able to say, I'm doing my part, I'm trying to spread democracy, that has connected with so many people, and it worries me a little. I can't believe how starved of that feeling people were. I'm going to assume it's a lot of men, even younger guys. Maybe they don't play sports, maybe they don't get to feel like they're really contributing to a team, but all of a sudden this video game comes around, and they say, hey, we need you. We need you to go liberate this planet. We need you to spread freedom and democracy across the galaxy. And people are signing up. People want to engage in that thought of, yes, they gave me a job to do. I'm going to do it, sir. For Super Earth. I didn't expect to see it click with so many people. I didn't expect so many people to have fun with the idea of just helping out. And that does make me wonder, what's going to be the next Star Trek that people are going to want to metaphorically be involved with? I don't know. What do you think? Maybe we can end it there. I've spoken a lot this week trying to film this course. My voice is a little tired, but I always find this stuff interesting, and I am so grateful that anyone out there is willing to listen to my ramblings. I'd love to hear from you. I need a little bit of feedback here, but I hope you're doing well. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Peace.